All right, it's 1:05. We're gonna kick things off. Want to welcome everybody to today's webinar, where we're going to share practical, real life experience that the three of us, Micah, Gene, and I, experienced when we had 4 independent living communities when we had Aware Senior Care from 2014 to 2020. I'm Tim Murray. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of CINCH CCM.
I'm Gina Marema, a co-founder of CINCH, a consultant at CINCH CCM.
Subject matter expert. And Micah?
And I'm Micah Kilgore, the product technical manager and quality assurance leader here at CINCH CCM.
So the three of us worked together at Aware Senior Care. And Micah was the head of the ship admin. He helped me with technology. He trained all the caregivers in this technology. So you've got the three amigos to kind of talk about what we did in communities. We're going to really start it off with Gina kind of going through a decision tree and kind of finding somebody, how to qualify them. And there's two instances. There's where you're going in and there's a agency already there, or you're going in and you're the new show. And it's kind of two different situations. And we'll kind of go through what we did, also share some examples. And please, Micah will look at chat. He'll make a call if we should hit it in a moment. And then we'll leave some time at the end. So again, welcome everybody. Okay, what kind of went through the agenda? I always like putting in fun pictures. I find we love being personal. Home care is personal. And that's actually Micah, Gene, and I, one of our friends and valued customers, David Hobbs, was in Angels in Cincinnati. And that is a former hotel, New England club. And, there's 140 residents or so. It's kind of a big operation. We went on site to experience it ourselves. We love to do that with our customers, is go to their place, understand what's happening, meet the caregivers. It was a wonderful experience. Cincinnati's a great town. We really enjoyed it. So like I said, today we're going to go through a process with you. First, finding and closing an IL, and then kind of how do we get started? We get that asked all the time. And then I'll share a case study, which really is a case study in patience. And then a value proposition. People, we talk about, what do I give to the executive director, or what's a leave behind? So I'll share an example. And last, our advice in terms of how to do this, and then we'll open it up, open the floor to questions. So Gina.
So I think it is really important that we're all in home care, that you really understand the different types of communities. So I apologize if you already know this. So they are communities that we provide community care services in. So not medical, not assisted living, not a nursing home. And I will tell you that many executive directors will cringe if you call it a facility. So please get used to calling it a community. It's their home, it's an apartment building. Many of them are beautiful, a lot of upscale ones. So they have amenities, they have dining services, they have transportation, they have activities, but they don't have personal care. And that's why they partner with a home care agency for little help taking showers, getting dressed, medication reminders, all those things that you do in traditional home care. So knowing the difference of the different types of communities, ideally standalone, independent community is wonderful. Some of them have assisted living and memory care, and some have the whole gamut. They're a continuing care retirement community. The CCRCs have it all. So know that we're targeting the independent sections of communities. So really doing your research. Do any of these independent communities have agencies there? What do they cost? You have very affluent ones that are very expensive. And I ask you to look at their costs. What are their amenities? And then also do research on the assisted livings in the same area. And the reason we did that was that helped us with our pricing. As we said, we were in 4 communities and they were all very different. So you want to have apples to apples. So when a family's considering, I'm going to take mom out of this independent community because your care is too much, know what it costs for a comparable assisted living, and they might really be surprised that you really are a really good value. So know what's in your area for those discussions. So then, who do you go after? What are you looking for in a community? So I think there's three big things when you're evaluating communities is the age of the community, number one. If a community's been around for several years, typically people are fairly healthy when they're moving in. I don't need any help. I'm fine. Now, some do move in who do already need help, but typically we would call them getting ripe as they got, brand new, has its challenges if they're all healthy people, but they've lived in the community for several years. They love it there. They're used to it. Let's face it, moving at any age is hard, but the older we get, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
So I want to stay here. I want to stay with my friends. So people that have been in the community that's been around for a while, the size of the community, that's going to give you the pool of potential clients. Not all residents are going to need help. I mean, we did have one that had about 75% of them did need help, and that was a tremendous business for us. So 120, 150 residents. So you want to look at the size. If it's small, if it's a very small building, 50, 60 residents, will you get enough clients in that community to justify staffing a caregiver there? And then honestly, affluence. Just like home care costs a great deal of money, and it's really people who have the money pay for it. The more affluent the community, they will be able to pay for your services. But then we also found that they would come back to the community and we would offer traditional. Sometimes coming back from a hospital stay, we would have a client 24/7 and then be able to pare it down and then go back to the community care. So that is a tremendous asset to your agency. So who do you go after? Now you know who you're looking for. You picked out a couple. So really, as Tim said, it's those that currently have an agency and those that don't. So if they have an agency, we recommend visiting, lots of visits, get to know them, go visit them, go to their socials. Do they do fundraising? Do they do charity events? If you have clients having traditional home care in a community, be present, be there. And we had a great session with executive directors, and their biggest thing was, ask me how you can help my community. Because just like we all work with folks living with dementia, and there are some similarities, every person with dementia is different. Every community, whether they're all atrias, every community is different. They all have different flavors, it's different scents, it's the staff that's there, and they all have different wants and needs. We had a community that said, absolutely no scrubs. I don't want to see the caregivers when if they're not with a client, they need to be in the office. We don't want them to see them. And we had another community that said, oh, we wish you'd come and join in with the activities. Let the caregivers come when we're doing line dancing. Let them be part of our community. So make sure you do that. So find out what the pain points are. How is it going with your current agency? Are they meeting your expectations? What do you need from an agency? And we have sample surveys. We would take and say, have you checked in? How happy are your residents with the services that they're currently getting? So sending a survey, not only to the residents, but to their families, their loved ones, their POAs, because you get two different sets of answers where the daughter's like, oh, if you guys can do showers and I don't have to come do the showers with mom, that would be lovely. So that's what it really is. It's finding out what that community wants that currently has an agency. So if they're new or they've never had an embedded agency, or they just say, well, we just let them pick whoever they want. Say, well, would it help? Have you ever heard of it? Have they been asking for 45-minute visits? I don't want somebody in my apartment for 4 hours. I don't need them for 4 hours. But let's face it, sending a caregiver someplace for an hour, that was hard in the best of times. And now with the caregiver shortage, it's even worse. So again, offer the surveys to this. This is what we can do. We follow if we have a client that's one of your residents and they go to the hospital, we follow them. We touch base with them while they're in the hospital.
Mhm.
Can we avoid them moving out? What can we do to support them to bring them back into the community and stay here? And the executive directors love that. We would work with the sales team, offer, you know what? Tell them that you have these short visits. You can have just medication reminders if that's all you need. And the sales team loved that. Anything that they could do to offer services within their community was really key.
Well, I'll add, if you're working with us or if you'd like, we have these surveys built in jot form. Those are familiar in jot form. And the way we did it is, the ED actually sent it out, not us. We teed it up and then we even rigged it so the responses came back to the ED and we'll let the ED share it with us. Some of the executive directors are quite happy to let you do it. So you can kind of offer it both ways. And why not? We found the ED is like, yeah, why not? I really don't know how
Right.
my staff or the residents feel about the home care agency, and that was a good thing. So we can share those tools with you if you'd like.
So do you want to talk to this? You want?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
talk to it. I talk too much. I'll talk to the next one.
So during the meetings, find out their pain points. And like I said, they may be different for each one of them. It's really important that you find out what their expectations are. Are the expectations of the on-site agency realistic? So we had our first community and we were looking to take our second one and we were invited in. And so we sat down with the executive director. And it didn't take long for us to realize that his expectations were not realistic at all. He wanted
Yeah.
caregivers in the building around the clock. He wanted them to be able to push their pendants for toileting assistance. We had decided that ours are scheduled visits. They're scheduled visits. We do have some flexibility, but if the residents could not toilet themselves, that was not something we were going to take on, that we were not going to run it like an assisted living. And that's a personal choice. We have customers that choose not
Do that.
to do
We
that.
have
And
one
that's,
exactly that does that.
that's
Yes.
fine.
Mhm.
But they also had, I'm a nurse, I've worked in nursing homes, and they had some residents that truly needed a much higher level of care than home care or even assisted living. If they ask you to do insulin injections, can you do that with your license? Can you have a nurse there twice a day for the insulin injections? These are things you really have to consider. We have, I talked to one potential customer who said, well, they're telling me I have to be there around the clock, but there's no visits overnight. And so
Mhm.
is that realistic? If you don't have any client visits, there's no revenue paying for that aid. So it doesn't really justify just because the executive director wanted to be able to market that. So find out, not all business is good business. So, and communication was key. When we took on our largest agency, it was right as COVID was hitting. And we had to establish the way we could communicate. We took on, it was about 80 clients at the same time. So we had to do all the assessments and care plans. So we set up after many, many phone calls, everything had to be through email. We had email groups. If it was an urgent need, an urgent care need, please call us. Absolutely call us. But if you want to talk about the schedule, if you want to talk about changes, everything had to go through email. It went to a group and we always returned it within 24 hours. So that worked beautifully and it saved our office staff from pulling their hair out. And then how do you communicate with the residents? We would say visits give them 10 to 15 minutes on, if it's an 8 o'clock visit, they should be there no earlier than 7:45 and no later than 8:15. That they were calling at 5 minutes after 10, she's late. So establish what the expectations and how to communicate. And, making sure what do the residents really need and are they getting it? So going through that with the executive director is really important. And our
Yeah.
big thing is, so how's your agency going to succeed? How's, the buildings that we got is because other agencies were not successful. And they're like, well, why do you think you can do it? What do you think? Well, you know what? We're going to be part of a team. We're going to be part of your team. We're going to have that clear communication. And honestly, we had the technology to do it. We had the technology and we showed them this is how we're going to manage it. It shows us how to schedule. It shows us what's needed. We also promised rapid response for referrals. That Friday afternoon, Mrs. Smith's coming home from the hospital. We told them that we would be there, that we would do assessments and get service started if they had people returning from the hospital, which is why we tracked them very carefully. So we didn't get surprised. Clear pricing. We've seen some pricing sheets that'll make your head hurt. So be clear how you're going to charge. Don't make it too complicated. And then we had a dedicated contact person from our agency was our go-to on the weekday and on the weekends. And then tell them we're going to work with your sales team. I would do assessments before people moved into the independent building. And sometimes I said, this is more care than community care. Now we can do 8-hour visits for this person, but she's not going to be able to do 15 and 30-minute visits. We won't be able to support that. And we were honest with them. And it did save a lot of heartache there.
Right. The expectations is kind of the big one here. Is really the key when you're forming a relationship. And I'll show you in the proposal the latest technology to manage scheduling. And as you know, we built on the side when we owned the agency what is now CINCH. Now we're up to CINCH version 4.1. We rolled out CINCH 1.0 April 2020, and we used that as a weapon. And I'll show you how I did it in the proposal with a beautiful new community here locally. It's an Avion property, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'll show you that. Just moving right along, I think. Closing the deal. We got some great stories about various closed scenarios. My personal favorite was during COVID. It was our biggest community was Abbotswood, and I'll share that case study. But we didn't meet indoors. We actually, it's almost like a covert meeting. You went to a restaurant area. It was a beautiful day, and it was executive director and his entire, when I say staff, all the key leadership. And it was Micah, myself, and Gina, and it was fire away. and after that, they rendered their decision, and the judges voted for us. It was quite an event, and honestly, I thought it was really slick. They had some really hard questions. We gave them some honest answers, and I think they respected when we said we can't do that more than we said
Right.
we can do that, because we were just honest with them. But I said, when I say can't, let's figure out what you really need, and let's figure out a way to make it work for both of us. And they really like that. So when you're closing your partnership, my advice is think about when you're engaging a community, you're doing a unsolicited proposal. If you think that way, it kind of maps your activities to you send a proposal whether they want them or not. And we did that.
Yeah.
We did that and it, believe me, it gets their attention. And so let me do a stop share and I can show you, hopefully this will work.
Because we knocked out, they had a long-term relationship with a large franchise, local branch here, and they were about to choose them. And they were like, well, all right, we'll interview you guys. And we actually knocked them out, which was very nice. So we needed to succeed.
Hopefully you'll see this. I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. I don't know if it's my delay here. This is our good old Aware Senior Care, and yes, we love Home Care Pulse. And believe me, one of hopefully your key differentiators is you have quality of care. And those of you know spin selling is when you say, I'm the best. Oh yeah? How are you the best? What's your proof point? Well, ours was the leadership award for 4 straight running years. And those who know Home Care Pulse, that's a pretty prestigious award for home care, for caregivers and clients. But this is really cool. We went in and we met with the leadership and they asked us hard questions. So I turned it around in a proposal and said, here are your questions. Here are our answers. And this is the Navion property, and it was Andrew, and he was the he wanted to know things like scale. All right, you're coming in, you have 3 or 4 clients. What happens when you get 30 or 40? How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to monitor your utilization and your profitability so you just don't fail? And so I just kind of, all his key points, he's like, how are you going to get to know our property? And our counter was, we're going to have town halls, we're going to have socials, we're going to become ingrained in your property. We're going to get involved with your sales process. We're going to help you and refer. So it was kind of, went through that and I said, how are you going to staff it? So I said, okay, here's how we're going to staff it. And just gave on a little org chart where community care coordinator is both a caregiver and a leader and a scheduler. And then as you grow, you basically add caregivers. And then you have nursing. You don't have to have full-time nursing, but you have nursing to do all the assessments and is there in the building at certain times.
If you need that.
Right, if you need that. And then I described what their jobs were and what they would do. And then here's the biggie. How do you manage the fluctuations in services? And this is where we previewed good old CINCH 1.0. This thing's a dinosaur compared to where we are now. But at the time it was hot, whoo, it's smoking hot, our staff mimicked our application. They kind of go hand in hand. We built CINCH for our caregivers and our schedulers.
Mhm.
They kind of go hand in hand. CINCH's job is to help the staff do their jobs beautifully and efficiently. And that's what we built, and have the reports and so forth. And, we talked about our services, our structure, the visit times, and then it's a little archaic, but we showed them how we did our scheduling. And this is a week view, gives you the big picture. This gives you the real time. So again, this is a dinosaur, but at the time they're like, wow, this is, great technologies out there like ClearCare at the time, which was our technology, didn't give you this picture or this type of scheduling paradigm. So we built it and then used it in conjunction with ClearCare. And in fact, it can be used many. So that's an example of a proposal. What my recommendation is when you do your homework and you go in and let's see, you are listening to their questions. Eventually, what you want to do is play that back. Here's our response. Here's how we're going to meet your requirements and your concerns. So think about you're delivering a proposal as you're going through this process. So we have a couple scenarios. Let me see, make sure I'm on the right spot. When you're replacing somebody, you've got a bit of work to do. Like we went into Abbotswood, the nursing staff, Gina, had to do 95 assessments. That's 95. So that's a lot of assessments. And with Micah's help, we actually did an electronic assessment scheduling system, allowed the clients to sign up for a time slot that they liked. And then we confirmed it with them. And so we also had an electronic agreement, service agreement, electronic payments, everything was electronic. So the more you can make yourself electronic and efficient, your life's going to be better. So like Gina said, when you're going in, think about your plan of attack, coordinating your resources. Here's how we're going to communicate. We set up an email group for the property. We talk about how we take calls, the electronic documents, the staffing and orientation. When you do every property is unique like Gina and staff, we would create orientation and protocol training for each property, where to park, how to dress, all the details. And then for residents, like I said, we did the assessments. And then the cool thing is we did a meet and greet. We did like the town hall. And we did multiple sessions during the day for the residents. And then in the evenings, we did the families and POAs. And we did a Zoom. Wanted to meet us, understand the philosophies, understand how we're going to communicate, our timeline for the transition. That's the other thing. So when you're going in, don't let them tell you what you're going to do, because they're in a panic. They want you to come in tomorrow and be up and running, and you got to know that's not possible. What we need is a transition period. You need to give us time to do our assessments, need to give us time to talk to the families. So there's so basically Gina's like, within 90 days, we'll be up and running totally.
Well, that's because it was so big.
Well, that was the big
That
one,
was only,
right?
yeah.
Sometimes you don't have a choice. And our first one was we came in 2 days before Thanksgiving, and literally the home care agency pulled out and we were the show, and that's just the way it was.
But that was not many. It was only,
That's not the norm.
that was like 20.
And right, that was 25 residents that we had to do. So basically, you create your plan of attack. You and your staff meet. Here we go. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's doing, and everybody has their jobs to do. And then you do your transition plan. We brief the ED. Here's our transition plan. Here's how we're going to go and get this up and running. Gina mentioned this, and I'll make a PDF of this available to y'all. But everybody has their pain points. And this is kind of, when we build Cinch, this was our roadmap we built Cinch to basically address the issues that each one of these roles has in your home care agency, specific to community care. So that I don't expect you to read this, and there will be no quiz afterwards. It's just there for your handy dandy. Getting started, we kind of went through this. Set expectations. I can't say it enough. Set expectations with the community staff, the residents. How are you going to handle emergencies, non-client visits? One thing I want to point out, which is really cool in Cinch, we love our technologies. We created what we call an unscheduled visit. And the caregivers on their little mobile phone, if Mrs. Smith says, or Mrs. Smith asked them to come back in, it wasn't scheduled, they can enter that unscheduled visit. It gets presented to the scheduling staff in Cinch kind of as a proposed visit, and it can be accepted or rejected. It could be billed for or not billed for. As you think of the scenario of our one customer that does toileting, that's how they handle it.
Yeah.
And they track it. And sometimes they charge, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, they get so many a day, and then they have a whole system. So
right. Gina said pricing, and it needs to be crystal clear. Let's see if I can share something simple with you. Sorry.
Well, and we have customers that do packages. So our scheduling is set up as time, just like traditional home care. People ask for 4-hour visits, 8-hour visits. Community care, they ask for half an hour, an hour. And that's where we set it up. Now, we have customers who say, I just want to say for these services, I'm going to charge this every week. And that's absolutely doable. It's just, that's a 15-minute visit. You just get charged for the bundled rate.
Yeah. So welcome to Cinchville. And this is a simple pricing sheet. I mean, you all will create different ones, but this was very simple for the clients. And the way Cinch is very time-based, where the client, like traditional home care, says, okay, I want to visit at this time, and here are the things that I want. And what the nursing staff or the staff coordinator would do is, for the various tasks, we knew pretty much how each one would take. And if you're doing a shower, a few other things, that could be a 45-minute visit. And for 45 minutes, we're charging $45. It's really simple. We understand we have clients that actually package things together and
Bundled visits.
Bundle visits. We can do that too. But this one's very simple. The clients get it. It's real simple. They see their invoice, they get it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share. It's a one-pager. And the EDs love it. It's pretty simple, so the simpler you can keep it, the better off you're going to be. So let's go back to the radio show. So in the getting started, just kind of giving you your plan of attack. There's expectations, there's pricings, their assessments, the service agreement's going to be very, there's got some changes from your traditional home care because cancellation, for example, 2 weeks ain't going to fly in this environment. You got a much more shorter window. There's some, so there's some nuances. So you're going to have a different service agreement for community care.
Like some addendums to your current,
Right.
yeah.
You have orientation. You got to hire, train your staff. And
Because
then
it is a different staff. The caregivers that love this are not the ones that want to sit with a client 12 hours. They're two different personality types. We were just talking with our former agency, and
And our staff.
their staff is still there. The caregivers that are there are still there. They love it. They have set hours. They don't have to worry about my client went to the hospital, and now I've suddenly lost my hours. So client goes to the hospital, it doesn't really affect their schedule or your bottom line very much at all. So the consistency for the caregivers is a real winner.
And this is a case study, Abbotswood, and this is, we already had a community with 25 clients, and it was like JV, and I think Kerry Aiken's got a son that's a professional baseball player.
That's right.
And then we're going into the big time, the major leagues, with 95 clients. So it was a big step up. But it's not an overnight process. I guess what I found is patience and perseverance and visibility. So it takes time to get an opportunity teed up. And when it is, you got to be ready. So we went to all the marketing events, the wine and dines, and it led to that unsolicited proposal. We met with the ED. We understood the struggles of the home care agency that was there. It led to an unsolicited proposal. It led to the meeting I described, and we were selected. But honestly, how we got in there is a fascinating story. We were actually helping the home care agency that was there that was struggling. And by mistake, I'll blame this on Micah, sent an invoice, our invoice to the ED, and he said, "Who the hell is Aware Senior Care?" Then he found out who we were. But actually, we got in there through a friend, Matt Towler, who is now executive director at an Atria property here in Cary. He was with Kisco, and he told David, said, "Hey, you should check Tim and Jean out," because at the time they were going to go with interim, but once they met us, they decided to go with us, and we thank Matt. We never got one of Matt's properties, but he really liked us, and the home care agency that was there was doing a good job, and so it's like, why replace that home care agency? You don't need to. So we never wanted to push ourselves in anybody. It was always like, "How you doing? Remember, we're right here." And they go, "Yep, I know. And then one day they'll give you a call, you know. So value proposition, built to a leave, but here's your leave behind. People say, "What do I say?" What is a great leave behind to a property? Your value proposition for residents, and you can build your own piece of collateral from this, but the things when you listen to the last webinar we did with David Sexton, our 3D EDs, we hear something they all say. The residents are unique. Every one of them has a custom care plan. So you're going to need to deliver this custom care plan. And they want visits that are short to 24/7. And one of the values that David talked about in his testimonial and there was that his experience with the home care agency and the caregivers, the poor caregivers at times didn't know what they were doing. They'd walk into a room, there was a call out, they had no idea what to do. And with CINCH and our notes and the way we track things, it's easy for the caregiver to understand. And what he said was refreshing that the caregivers knew what they needed to accomplish with the clients. And the clients loved that. Even the newbies, because of the way that the technology
Because in community care, the visits change all the time. They change the tasks, they add visits, they shorten visits, they make them longer. It's constantly changing.
Right. So here's your leave behind for the executive directors, or if you're building a piece of collateral, and I have a little sample, I'll stop to share, and I've got this and I can make it available to you all as well. Um, really, when we speak, people ask us about Cinch, it's not so much the technology is the greatest or the technology this. My answer is Cinch in the hands of the great people, that's you guys, in the hands of home care agency owners, enables them to deliver quality and timely service to seniors so they can experience a higher quality life and stay where they want to stay longer. That's what the executive director's looking for from you, quality of life, and because they'd like to stay there,
Keep their people.
keep their people. And the other is if they do go out of the community because there's a fall or something, we're tracking them and we're ready to take them back and care for them. That happened a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of falls, and then you guess what? You got a 24/7 case, a beautiful thing. So we track them and we work together with hospice and home health. We all worked as a team, right? It's the circle of support. And they love that. So it's a team approach. When you're in the community, you want to snuggle up to your OTPT company, you want to snuggle up to the hospice, you all work as a team. You all talk together, and there's kind of sometimes a handoff. And the emphasis is on trusted partner. Right? We're your partner. We're not just a home care agency. We're a partner. And that leads me to a point. Let me do, if I can, I'm going to go over to there. And I'm going to share the screen again. Now share with the, so we'll insert your home care logo here. Here's our recommendation to you. If you picked up on Gina said, a lot of times they do not want to see caregivers in scrubs.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these places are like gorgeous resort living, and they want professional caregivers, polo shirts. And my recommendation is you have an opportunity maybe to brand your services. Call it concierge services for residents of amazing senior living, or flex care, or community care. Brand it. Give it a different spin from home care. And then concierge services provides residents with what they want when they want it. It's kind of, and then here's your bullet points, custom care plans, and the graphic is to get a point across. You want to elevate your positioning to really almost concierge versus I'm giving insulin shots. And granted, every property is unique, understand it, position your services appropriately. But a lot of times rebrand it, call it something like community care, because that's what it is. Community care from Amazing Home Care. And here's our services. This is your leave behind, your data sheet, whatever, when you're talking to community. And you could put little home care pulse awards, you want them to get your high quality, and then from the, for the EDs, we talked about this. It's all about helping the residents stay healthier and in the community longer. If they go to the hospital, you track them, they come back, we can care for them. We're your trusted partner. We're there in the sales process. We'll help you in the intake. We'll help you meet with the families, give them that warm and fuzzy if they may not need it now, but we're the wingman, what we can do. You become part of the community, the events, you work with your hospice partners, your home health. That's the type of message that you want. And I thought this is a love for me. I love business development and marketing. This is your leave behind. You want to show them that we understand their world. This is different than traditional home care. So that was
I think that's,
right. I'm getting a signal from the hook from from Gina to move on. So the where we want to end up here is homework. Think of it as you have your little checklist of things to do. You go into a new property, surveys, understand their property, understand the pricing, understand the surrounding pricing in assisted living. So the value proposition is it's a better deal to get home care with independent living versus $12,000 a month in assisted living at a high level of acuity. Understand the expectations of EDs. What's important to them? Because their property, everybody's property is different. Attend their events, show up at their bagel and coffees and their wine and dines and wave your hand and smile and, charity events, Dementia Alliance, there's so many different things. So be visible, show you care. And then the last one is talk to their partners there. We got referred into our first property. We got a leg up because we were buddies with a Medicis. And a Medicis was the on-site home health. And then when that home care company started failing, she put the bug in the ear and then we got the call. So it's good to know who else is in there. This is the classic, who's the decision maker? The ED. Who are influencers? Could be Transitions Life Care Hospice, home health. Who do they trust? So with that, it is 1:44.
Nice.
And
Questions?
yes, we would love to fire away questions. Anybody wants to share an experience that reinforces some things you said?
Please go
fire
ahead, and
away.
if anyone has any questions, go ahead and put them right in chat. But Tim and Gina, just a couple of quick ones. So first off, as I know you said you're going to share some of the documentation. Will you also share the sample on the surveys that you had mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I've got everybody's emails from the registration and participation. And I'll send, the recording's simple. If you go up to our website, you get the whole recording. But I'll put all those samples, including a link to our jot forms. And you're free to
survey,
do
yeah.
whatever you want to. It's the survey, right? The
Yeah.
surveys that are there. So I'll
Yeah.
share every little thing, the pricing, the proposal, the links for you all. Be happy to.
I have another question for you. It's coming from Jake. So what kind of penetration rates have you experienced? Like, for example, like the percentage of residents needing services in the community?
It really varied by community. Like the big one, it really was 75%. The smaller ones that were actually about the same size, but so like 140 residents, we averaged 25, 30 clients. That was a pretty steady thing. But they would go in waves. Then we get up 35. As we got close to 40, they would either pass away or go, need a higher level of care, and it would drop back down. It was kind of a wave.
Right.
Our typical ones, we had 2 to 3 caregivers in the morning and 2 caregivers in the evening. Now the big one, we had 8 caregivers in the morning, 6 in the evening, and 2 overnight. So those were really
That was
that was,
such a cool operation to watch
Yeah.
our caregivers go around with their iPads
yeah.
and phones and do a briefing. But
I saw Carrie asked a
20,
question.
yep, yeah, I saw Carrie. 25 to 30% is a good number, but every property is different. And we have one, the one that the Navion property, Reserve at Mills Farm, a very beautiful property, brand new, right? So we only had 10, 12 to start. But you know what also we had? 24/7s, traditional. So when you're looking at your business model, you may be underwater here, but you're doing fine here. Combine those two, and overall you're good. That's why getting into community sometimes, even though for some reason the cluster care is not taking off, but
Yeah.
you get other business there. So just something to consider when you're looking at a community.
Because their assisted living filled up, so they couldn't move them. There was no way to move them from their independent to assisted. So the family's like, okay, we'll just do round the clock care until we can move them.
Right.
We're like, okay.
Michael, what was Carrie's question? I think there was some billing
So
or
yeah, Carrie is just making a comment. How about pay ahead by the month for pre-scheduled visits?
What
What are your thoughts on that? They said they've had success with that in the past.
Right. Our software does that. There's we don't have any customers that doing it, but we have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
It's just hard when they, if something happens in the middle of the month, then you have to reimburse them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie, we actually did that because I thought it was brilliant. But then Micah didn't think it was so brilliant. Because you have reality and that, you have
Yeah.
scheduled in reality and then you got to do a reconciliation each month. So I said, we'll go to bill them afterwards because you know what they did, right? You've got the show, but we can do before and after
Yeah.
billing.
Yeah.
So good question.
Yeah, our software can do both. One thing that's extremely helpful is to have like ACH be a mandatory thing. ACH or credit
Yes.
card, basically an electronic payment, be mandatory. Then it's just when the time comes, it's an auto charge, right? So that way you're not having to chase anything down, because
Yeah.
it's always like the smallest invoices are the ones you have to chase down the most.
Right.
Um, so, but you can do either option. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. The client that only has one shower a week, you're chasing them down for that,
yeah.
$25 check. You're like, okay, no. we're not-
I,
Yeah.
s- I still remember the 2 visits a week. I won't say any client names,
Yeah.
obviously, but I remember they were the ones I had to chase down every single invoice.
Yep.
Phil had a great question, and I included a link here in the chat as well. He was saying, how can we learn more about the software? I put a link to our website, to it's cinchccm.com, and especially the Evaluate Cinch subheading. You can learn a lot, and at the very bottom, you can actually schedule a demonstration of it. So you can actually see it in person and tailored to how you all are actually operating in your communities, or how you think you'd like to operate in your communities.
Yeah. We built that section for you guys,
Mhm.
thinking when someone's calling me about a technology, because I get it, I'm in the middle, like another technology. Um, you know, but honestly, we developed Cinch and it has beautiful APIs. It's open product, so we can interface, and we are actually in the throes of interfacing with the number one in the market, which is WellSky ClearCare. It just so happens that was our platform, and we used it non-integrated. So I want to make a major point. It helps people today, whether it's integrated with a platform. I know them all, ERSP, Smith
Access
Ops,
care.
Access Care.
Mhm.
I know all the players. I've seen them all. They can work side by side. That's what we did with ClearCare. We did what ClearCare did best, traditional wise, things like payroll, for example. But as Gina said, ClearCare tells them where to go and clock in and clock out. Our product tells them what to do. That's what its job is. It's tailored end to end, complete manage a community. It can work standalone or work in conjunction with your platform and not replace it. Your call. Because that's the way I looked at it.
Mhm.
Um, so check it out, and it would love to. Obviously, we're pretty passionate about
Yeah.
this and home care and Cinch. So we'd be happy to talk with you and answer your questions.
Yeah. We didn't have any other questions in the chat
Okay.
as of yet, but really just a lot of excellent experience here. And so highly recommend, if you do think of other questions, please don't hesitate to check out that website that Tim just mentioned there.
Yeah. Because Micah did all the invoicing for us, and it was quite challenging because we couldn't make it work in ClearCare. So it was spreadsheets, and it was,
Yeah.
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 challenging.
Yeah, had quite the setup. What I'll say is the time saved utilizing Cinch was a game changer for the admin staff. So caregiving staff as well, but um, my time from invoicing went from 8 hours a day down to, and I'm not exaggerating, like 15 minutes every invoicing period, and it was accurate invoices because it was only added to the invoice if it was actually completed. So
And answering questions in real time for families that call, and
yeah,
eventually families just get confidence in you, and there's trust. You know, there's that trust, and the system gives you that real time. I like to call it like a radar. Cinch is a radar. It kind of
yeah,
tracks everything for you, and
yeah,
you always know where you stand. And that's a really warm feeling,
yeah.
to always know where you stand in the community and manage.
I saw Jake.
Yeah, I'll say, Gina, this is a great question for you. Can injections be done on your in-home care agency license by a nurse working for you?
I think it depends on the state. So in
Mhm.
North Carolina, we added nursing services to our non-medical home care agency. So we were allowed to provide skilled nursing services. Um,
Right.
but I'm wondering, Jake, how your meeting went yesterday. You had a meeting with a
Yeah, Jake got thrown into a community in the last spot and emailed me. So I said I armed him up, made him dangerous, and we were looking forward to find out how that went for you, Jake.
so
Um,
do you know if what your state's license says?
Hello, hello. Well, it was a very initial meeting, but it was interesting because I mean this is we do normal home care services in home care services and never been. Of course, I've known this concept for a while, but never been asked to supply these services and this is very new situation for me. And like yesterday, the meeting was like the first meeting to talk with the ED and the assisting ED, and they sort of took the information what I had, only the basic paperwork, and they are evaluating 5 companies. And I think that the information you are sharing in here, a majority of that is, I mean, of course, all the basics are familiar to me, but how to get your operations done in a community, because even scheduling as well, what you are pointing out is very different over there. So a lot of very good and practical information. Thank you for that.
Oh,
You're
you're
welcome.
welcome.
Wonderful.
Right, because Cinch builds a list for the caregivers where, you know, one-on-one and traditional. So Cinch will say, you know, you've got 1,000 visits a week, and okay, how do I divide those up? This caregiver, here's the list, and you can organize them by where they are in the building. So it's, you don't want them running from the first floor to the fourth floor to over here. So it kind of says the caregivers walk in and go, okay, here's my list. 7 a.m. I go here, 7:30 I go here, and it has all those task sheets for them ready to go.
Mhm.
So that's a big difference.
Before we go,
Awesome.
I'll also put in a link in the materials to you all we talked about, the presentation and so forth. Our next webinar you might find very interesting. It's on December 14th, Thursday, 1 p.m. And we're going to demonstrate to you how we used Cinch with our home care technology platform, the methodology that we did. And it would apply to any platform. Like I mentioned to you, we were WellSky users. We're basically kind of play back to you how that worked, and it was non-integrated. We worked the two of them together. So that's our next webinar.
Good luck, Jake, with that community.
Yeah.
Wish me luck. So perhaps we can get a trial running or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
Good.
I guess if there's anything else, it's really great to see some familiar faces.
Yeah.
And Carrie, especially, we go way back from the Senior's Choice.
Yeah.
There's a soft spot there. But you know, God bless you for what you're doing, guys. And thank you for taking an interest in us. Thank you for, you know, our experience. The best. We just love to talk and help, whether you're going to use Cinch or not.
Yeah.
You know, because it's an important role that we all play of quality of life for seniors wherever they're living. And you guys are at the heart of it. So
Yeah. Thank you.
so thank you. And if we don't see you for the next webinar, you know, happy holidays to you and your staff. And thank you for joining us today.